Oh, okay, today we're gonna be doing reading. I don't know if the other two in here know me, but my name's Marian. I just graduated from Jemison High School and I go to UH. But I didn't do an introduction tab because I didn't know how many people were gonna be in here that like didn't know me already, and also I didn't want to devote a whole slide to myself. So we're just gonna jump right into it. But just in case, I'm sure a lot of you have already gone over the ACT, gone to some Operation 36 meetings, or even the one that Weller did a couple weeks ago. But just to like briefly review, the reading portion is 40 questions with 35 minutes, and it has 4 passages, and there's 10 questions per passage. So this means, particularly for the method I'm going to be reviewing today, that you have approximately 8 minutes per passage. So that would be a total of 32 minutes with 3 minutes to spare for the usual mild panic and answer review. And then in that 8 minutes, the usual breakdown is like 3 minutes to read through the passage and 5 minutes to answer through the questions, and 30 seconds per question. Which, if you read through the entire passage, 30 seconds per question should be enough. So today, please bear with my lame gifts memes. I really didn't know. Like, I felt like it looked dry, so I was like, add flavor. But I'm gonna be going over what I refer to as the speed read approach. So it's gonna look a little like, it's gonna be a lot more about reading efficiently and quickly, and like where to use this, how to use this, and stuff like that. Weller should have gone over the skim approach, which is kind of like the other version of this. So again, I'm sure some of you have already probably done this, so it'll just be review, but I have a lot of practice at the end. So first, the reading, like the reading speed test I had before got deleted. Like the website just completely deleted it. So I have a new one, but I'm gonna like copy it in the chat. But what was I gonna say? But yeah, we're gonna just quickly take some time and like see how fast you guys read. That's in the chat. So you're gonna like click on the website, and then you're gonna select the high school intermediate option, and then let me know when you're finished. And if you want to share your score, you can do that too. But the link is in the chat. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm probably gonna do it too, actually. That's really good, Elise. I didn't do as well as I had hoped, but I also haven't been reading. Don't tell my literature professor though. It's kind of sus. Yeah, I really need to like read more, but college has just caused me endless existential panic. So oh Noah, you don't have to, but there's a link in the chat to test your reading speed on the high school level, and that's what everyone's doing. If you want to, go ahead, just let everybody let me know when you're done. And if you're not going to do it, let me know. That's really good, Chastity. Am I reading that? Yeah, okay, I read that right. This is also a weird passage. I don't know if anyone else thought that way, but it was like all description. Oh yeah. Yeah. If you want to do it a little later, since everyone else has already finished, so we can keep moving. But I put it in there so you could copy it for later. And that's really good, Jasmine. I'm kind of glad that you guys all can read faster because it makes my job a lot easier. Okay, so moving right on into this again with the lame gifts. Just, I'm sorry.
What?
Okay, so reading efficiently. So it's cool if you can read fast. I mean, I can technically read fast, but you got to be able to read efficiently, and it's all about active reading. So you got to take your little wooden pencil that they're gonna make you have for the ACT, and it doesn't matter how you do it. Underline, circle, box. Make a little note next to it. Draw an arrow. I don't care what you do. It doesn't matter. But pointing out important information or things that you may think will be important can really help you. So if you see a date, go ahead, circle that home. You know, just go ahead, do what you need to do to like. I think it also really helps to just put your mind in the text because you're looking at it, you're actively involved with it, you're not just sitting there reading. And even if maybe you don't like that, maybe you feel like it takes a little bit too much time, then follow along with your finger, follow along with your pencils, anything at all to make it where you are actively in the text. And this can be used wherever you read because a lot of times if I'm reading, especially for, again, I'm in a 300 level literature class, and sometimes they give you work that you don't want to read because it's like the most boring thing on the planet, and you just really have to actively read to make sure you're retaining the information at all, because then you have to take 2 quizzes and write an essay about it. So just make sure you're actively involved with text, no matter what text it is, no matter how little you want to be involved and how little you think it is important. Just make sure you do that. Oh, frick. Okay. And again, just because if you are gonna do the circle thing, make sure that like just because something doesn't seem important doesn't mean it isn't. Like a lot of times the text will ask you a question about a specific place that the person went to or something. So try to be looking at all times. Okay. When you should speed read. So I personally speed read through the entire passage. I read every single passage on the reading ACT. It works well for me. I have a 35 to 36 on the reading section, but it doesn't for everybody. So I will say that if you're gonna like split it up, I recommend using the speed read approach on these two passages in particular, just because with the natural science section, skimming can work for you because the natural science is a lot more facts. It's a lot more, you can read the question and then go right back to the passage and find something. With the prose faction, it's going to be a lot of, like it says, 70% of the fiction passage questions are about reasoning. So it's about inference. It's about how did they feel here? Like what was going on? Like what led up to this? Like, so you can't really just skim with that passage, especially like prose. I personally believe if you're gonna pick one to take a lot of time on, if you're gonna pick one to sit down and read the entire thing, it really needs to be prose, which is why that's pretty much the main reason why I teach the speed read approach, because a lot of people miss out on these two passages. Because the humanities is also, like it says down here, 50% reference questions, but also 50% reasoning questions. So it's kind of like half and half. You can skim, but why would you want to get half the questions wrong when you can get all of them? But yeah, so prose is my personal favorite because it usually has like the interesting stories, short stories, pieces of novels, books, that stuff. Humanities is always like, oh, music. Like I think we have one about jazz. There's art. You'll get one like there's some about like clay pottery and like specific cultures and stuff like that, which is also pretty cool. Not gonna lie, I vibe with it. But no, my personal favorite. I actually just opened another app, so that's gonna make my computer lag. So that's cool. Next, how to read speedier practice. There's absolutely nothing else to it. Like, I don't care what anybody tries to tell you, they're lying to you. You can't get better at reading without reading, which is why I need to read. I mean, I just spent like $70 at Barnes and Noble. I really need to go read. But it's, and I know it's not everyone's thing, but I swear anybody, I know a lot of people don't like to read. My brother doesn't like to read, but I'm sure that if you just like you really look, you really dig into yourself and browse around a bookstore, you'll find something that's interesting. You'll find something that catches your eye. Maybe you're not a fiction person, but you want to read about your favorite musician from way back when. Like it doesn't matter. You'll find something that you like to read. And even if you have to reread that same book over and over again, which is actually pretty good anyway, because research shows you should really read it like 2 or 3 times to really understand everything that's going on. But oh no. Um but yeah, you'll find something. Just read. That's it. Just read. Um, and I know I kind of just like brushed through that. So before we get into I'm sorry, I don't like waste time. So before we get into the practice for today, which I'm now realizing because of how fast I did that, I probably should have added more practice questions. But does anybody have any questions? Anything they feel like I should have mentioned that I didn't? Anything of that sort? Oh, I just saw your message. I'm sorry. Do you know any books that would match the ACT passages? Do you mean like books that like they take pieces from and put in the passage, or books that'll be pretty similar to the passage? That would be similar. Honestly, anything that like is on par with high school reading, because some like they don't really exceed that level of difficulty. So pretty much any novel that isn't lower level. Like how sometimes you'll pick up a book and you're like, oh, this is really easy to read. So maybe intermediate, kind of like the passage that we just read for testing your speed. If I can pull it up. This one, like this is from this book. That's a pretty boring book. I don't vibe with it. but just anything that's on high school level. Like I said, go ask your English teachers. Like for if you really, really want to get into reading, they probably have a mini library in their classroom. I don't know if you all are doing in person, but I could also ask Weller and Miss Heller. I have some books that I could look through to get. I don't know off the top of my head is what I'm saying, but if you have English teachers, definitely they're always willing. I know for like this for a fact, they're almost always willing to give you book recommendations because they're like a child reading my dream. Like especially Weller, it's great. But if you're really serious about it, I would definitely ask your English teacher. They're definitely gonna be willing to do that for you. But yeah, anything that's pretty much high school level and up, nothing really lower level unless you do have a slower reading speed. I'm pretty sure everybody that I saw, like it was pretty up there. It was close to or at 300 words per minute, which is pretty good. And so try to stay away from the lower level. Nonfiction may be good, but nonfiction's boring to me. I've always said nonfiction isn't even like a book to me. It's like research. I don't want to do research. So yeah. Okay. Any other questions? That was a good question, even though I didn't answer it very well. Okay. So I'm gonna drop this link in the chat for practice. Again, I'm sorry I went through that so fast. I talk fast and I read fast. So I just was like pushing through it. I don't really like to waste time, and I know it's probably boring to join an Operation 36 meeting if you are going at a slower pace. So I tried to make it quick for you guys. Plus, if we can get through all the practice and I can give you more practice for later, then that is less time you guys actually have to spend in a Zoom meeting. Because I know a lot of people, like me specifically, I like to work on my own. So, yeah. Okay, so you're going to pull up the form. Please put your name in just because I don't know how they're doing attendance. I probably should have taken attendance. I don't know. As you can tell, I'm not a teacher. I'm only qualified because I got a 36, like 35, 36 on my reading and my English. And I want to be a teacher. But I also want to be a lawyer. Probably do both. But yeah, and I tutor college. But anyway, so it's gonna look like this. I tried to make it to where every single question, I'm pretty sure every single question, even if it ends up being ugly like later ones, has the question and all the answer choices written out and the entire passage, just to make sure that you weren't flipping back and forth, because I know that sucks. I am still probably going to give like an extra minute to the time, so that because you're going to have to like scroll down and maybe you want to scroll back up and look at it. And I know that gets redundant. So I am going to put up a timer on my phone for 9 minutes. I know I said 8 minutes per passage, but again, an extra minute. Let me pull up my timer. I'm pretty sure I have one prose passage and 2 humanities. Oh, I didn't even title this one. Ignore that. That's ghetto. And yeah, that's it. It's 1 prose and 2 humanities. Okay. So before I start the timer, does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Okay. I'm also going to read this with you guys so that I can answer it to the best of my abilities, but I also have the answer key. So your time starts now. Oh, in case I wasn't clear, do you guys want to do like a full 9 minutes, read the passage and answer it all yourself? Or do you want to do the like 3 minutes and then answer it together? Because I'm down for either. I'm reading it anyway. So it's whichever you guys prefer. I just realized I should have asked that before. I paused the timer though. Okay, so Elise says read the passage and answer all the questions, and then we'll just review it. So unless someone has a differing opinion, that's what we're going to do. Okay. Once again, your time starts now. We have about 1 minute left. Okay, your time's up. Um, did everyone finish? Get close, or like about where was everyone at?
I was on question 20.
Oh no, no. You were only supposed to do the first 10. I'm sorry. I thought well, you got very far then. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I don't remember my exact words, in all honesty. I'm sorry. I thought I had I thought I had specified. Yeah, it was only supposed to be the first passage. Ooh, um, okay. Well, we're gonna go over passage 1, and then we'll do passage 2 differently. Okay. Um, I'm sorry. So, what did everyone get for number 1? Okay, we got A, we got D. A. This is a lot easier when it's only 4 people, I'm not gonna lie. I only have to wait for 4 answers. Okay, so the general consensus is A. That's what I got when I was doing it, and the answer is A. So Jasmine got D, which honestly I can see why you got that. I was kind of leaning between A and D because B, not really. It doesn't really say what inspired him to participate in the junior nationals. And C, it doesn't really contrast anything, compare or contrast anything. So it would have to be A or D. And then so it's not D because he's not chronicling his swimming career. He's not going like, this is what made me start swimming, and then these are all the events I went through, and then that led up all the way to right now. He specifically recalls the swim of his life, like this one right now is what he's referring to it as, and the factors that motivated him to win. So while he was about to win, he was thinking of the boy who was pointing towards the end of the water. He was thinking of those great backyard pools where someone inspired him. And then like the anger of losing other swims, the fact that he hadn't won before and this was his last chance. So that's why it's A. But I definitely see why you could have gotten B. Okay. Number 2, go ahead and drop your questions. Also, you guys don't have to type in the chat if you don't want to. You can speak out loud. I don't care either way. I have no preference. Okay, so GE. Okay, so pretty much G is the vibe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the first chronological event. It was kind of a little unclear, but yeah, it was G. That's what I put too. Not even gonna go over that. That was simply like about chronology. So okay, number 3, the narrator describes the natatorium as being nearly empty of spectators that day of his race in order to what? What did you guys get? A little uncertain, and it's okay to be unsure, and it's also okay to be wrong if you do end up being wrong. A. So I'm getting that everyone chose A. Let's look at it. Illustrate that the perfect racing conditions in the narrator and hope for weren't likely to occur. It is that. I think that's what I chose. This one was a little bit more, because I don't know. I was also at first I was like D, and then I was like, because he wasn't like all energetic or anything. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe C, because at first I was reading the answer choice C wrong and reading it as she could hear his footsteps as loud as a horn. So I thought it was saying like, oh, it was so empty and she could hear her coach. But no, the only one that really works is A, illustrate that the perfect racing conditions that she had hoped for. Because she wanted to be like buzzing. She wanted like energy in the room. She was counting on that to like kind of just push her, get her where she needed to go. Because as she mentioned, she was kind of just like pushing everything off on everyone else. You guessed A, and it's okay to guess. But yeah, it is A. So good guess. But does everyone get why that's A?
Yes.
Facts. Okay. The narrator indicates that when he slammed the 1,000-yard freestyle in the time trials, the world for a moment seemed to what? I feel like this one was kind of word for word in the passage. H. J. Oh, so we're just about split. Chastity's gonna break the tie. You guessed I would put H. Okay, so we're gonna go over this one. Okay, so with H and J, okay, so I'm gonna leave those for last since those ones. Yes. We're gonna get rid of. Wait, where'd you get? There's no I. Oh, you guessed but put I. I completely read that wrong. I was like, you guessed I but put H. I'm slow. Okay. So the general consensus was H. That's actually not the answer. I'm pretty sure it was J. Yeah. Let me explain why. So we can go ahead and get rid of F and G because this is sped up, and we all know that that's not what happened. So it's not H because H says move in slow motion as everything did around him. And yes, it does say like everything in time seemed to slow down, but that's kind of already implied when it says the world for a moment seemed to slow down. Um, so if you added in everything around him slowed down, it would be kind of like extra, and there's no really explanation for that. Whereas J, it says slow down, allowing him to reflect in time, which is exactly what happened. As soon as everything slowed down, he started thinking about the September, jumping in the pool, grabbing the flag line, diving over the swim wall, his past meets where he was so angry that he didn't land, basically talking about these things that motivated him to where he is now. So that's why it's J, slow down, to allow him to reflect time. Because again, H is like it moves in slow motion as everything did around him. I don't know if it specifically mentioned everyone else like walking slow, talking slow. said that everything around him specifically seemed to slow down. Does that make sense? Okay. So number 5, the passage indicates that during the narrator's swim at the time trial, he understood for the first time what. This one also took me a second because I was like, ooh, sus. Yeah, I was a little torn on this one. Also, am I the only one that thought the swimmer was a girl, like straight off the bat? Like, I don't know why I just assumed that it was a female. Okay, we got 2 D's with question mark, and then C and D. Let me read it again. Okay, let's look at C and D. Okay, so it's not A and it's not B, because A is his goals would always be one step farther on. No, it doesn't really come to that. B, he had trained for a swim for over a year. I'm pretty sure he had known that already. I don't think that this was the first time he understood that. C, the swim was an event that was important to him alone, and D, swimming is a choice between the now and the later. Okay, so both of these are pretty similar. Both of them are saying like, okay, I need to make the decision now, like it's really important. But it is C. This one was an event that was important to him alone. I think it said that. I'm not funny. Yeah, because it says swimming, I had long understood, is a constant choice between the now and the later, exhausting now for the sake of the later. And then it says, he goes on to say, I was out of laters, I'd made my choice, I'd never spent harder in my life. So, yeah, it says, what I understood not later, but right then in the water was how little the swim was up to the world. And basically, it was all about him. So, I could see why you guys got D, but it is C because it says he already understood that it was a now and later. He already understood that. But now he was understanding that it's not up to the world because earlier in the passage he mentions he wanted the perfect swimming conditions and he wanted all the electricity in the room and he was just gonna he wanted the water to be perfectly cold and he wanted it like this, and he wanted it like that. And he understood that it wasn't up to everybody else. It was only important to him whether or not he wanted it. So it is C, but I do understand why you guys got DW plus. That one was kind of a toss up, kind of. But did everyone understand why it was C? Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, they try to get you. 6. Based on the passage, the end of the narrator mentions in line 80 most likely refers to his what? This one I scrolled back up just because it was like directly a reference to the line, but you didn't really have to. Yeah, so G. Yeah, that one was pretty straightforward. Because he didn't realize that he had like there was no competitors to defeat, so it can't be J. The end, no, he was already done talking about his last memory, so that's not H. And then F, final pursuit of fitness. That was not even discussed. So G, last chance to qualify for junior nationals. It was his last opportunity. He was a senior. He had failed every other time. It wasn't going to happen unless it was going to happen right then. So 7, the narrator of this passage characterizes the time trial in Houston as what? This one again was pretty straightforward in the passage. D. Yeah, I'm not even gonna wait for everyone else's answer responses. It's D. That was like the first thing mentioned about the room was that it was super informal. And then even when he or she got up on the block to like start to swim, it was there was no one else in the room. So it couldn't have been big and buzzing. So yeah, it's D. Okay, so this one's a line question, but not really. The statement, "That's where you're going, now hurry up," can most directly be attributed to the what? If you were unsure, you could have returned to the line for this one. But again, I don't personally feel that it was necessary, per se. H. 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 Okay. It is H. It couldn't be for G because the cheering boy or whatever never actually said anything out loud. He just kind of unfolded his legs and was like, yo, right there. Can't be J because he wasn't angry from what I remember. And he wasn't thinking about what to respond with. So this one, that's why I said you didn't really have to go back to the line because you could just kind of like, cut out the other ones. So it is H. Okay, and question 9. For the narrator compared to practicing in the indoor pool, practicing in the outdoor pool is what? This one, if read too fast, could trip you up. Hopefully it didn't. But if anyone messed this one up, I can understand it. A question mark. Okay, so we got A and B, both kind of uncertain. Noah, what did you get? You guess C? Okay. So, so it is not C because it says specifically practicing in the outdoor pool. And when reading it, it doesn't necessarily say that he preferred the outdoor pool, but it does go from like talking about being under the big blue sky and how nice it was. And then I think he described the indoor pool as dank and moldy, which kind of insinuates that it's less appealing. So it's actually not C, but I do understand, like, again, if you read this a little different. It's not D. I know no one picked D, but I just want to get that up. Like, there was no even mention of one pool being more competitive than another. So it comes down to A and B, more liberating and more productive. And I'm pretty sure, pause. I'm gonna check the answer key because I feel like that's not right. Because I don't, oh, I read the question wrong. No, it was right. I read the question wrong. Ignore me. I read the question wrong. I read it backwards. I had read it as compared to practicing in the indoor pool, the outdoor pool was what? Like I read it as like talking about the outdoor pool. I'm slow. So you know how I said that the question could trip you up if you weren't careful? Yeah, it did that to me. So it actually is C. The indoor pool is less appealing for the same reason I just said it wasn't C, because it describes the indoor pool as dank and moldy. Ignore how undeniably slow I am. Does anybody have any questions about that one? Oops. No, I'm getting not. Elise and Jasmine, did you do the same thing that I did? Like, did you read the question backwards? Because I definitely did. Like, there's no hiding that.
No, when I was reading it, I legitimately did not remember anything about like comparing the two pools. I remember the narrator talking about how like the outdoor pool was like, beautiful and wide and like nice. And then I didn't remember anything about the indoor pool.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm just slow then. Okay. Ignore that. Moving on, number 10. When the narrator heard jump in his mind while swimming, line 67, he was most likely remembering what? F. I'm surprised there aren't more people in this meeting. Because they're pretty spaced apart. F and F and F. Yeah, that one was pretty straightforward. No real other explanation to it other than that. That's what he said when he jumped. Is F. So, okay. Who all read the humanities passage already? Okay. And did you guys answer any of the questions? And if so, how many did you answer? Okay, Elise didn't answer any. Jasmine didn't answer. I thought someone said they got to question 20, which would be the last one for this passage. Oh no, there's no problem. I'm just trying to figure out who did what so I can figure out how to do the next passage. So it seems like everybody already read the passage, and some people answered a couple of questions. So we're going to do it how the second option for the first passage was, where I'm just going to do it with you. So for some of you, I'm going to be answering the questions with you. For some of you, I'm just going to be reviewing the questions. So that's the only way I can see we can do this passage where everyone can meet up. But if you did answer some there, I didn't specify, like I should have. That's my bad. But it's perfectly fine. At least everybody read the passage, so that I didn't, but it's fine. I don't think I really need to. So we're just gonna jump right into it. Ignore the fact that 21 seconds down there twice. Okay, so number 11 slash 21, whatever. Number 11. If you already got the question, the answer, what do you think it is? And if you don't already have the question, the answer, go ahead and take a second to say what you think it is. Mm-hmm. Okay, CBC. Okay, so I just like scrolled up and found in the passage. Ooh, those are both like pretty much like pretty similar, B and C. So those both sound right. Okay, so I scrolled up to right here in line 34, 35. Oddly enough, Barry's geniality might help explain his failure to court history's favor. It wasn't in his nature to call attention to himself or his playing. So I'm gonna guess B because it specifically says genial personality. And right before that passage, it was saying how other like players loved him. Yeah, the people who loved Barry were not surprisingly blah blah. And then Barry faced a lot of other horn players. They accepted wisdom, blah blah blah, blah, bunch of extra stuff. But I'm gonna guess B actually. It's C. Okay. They probably just threw genial in there to specifically throw you off because I wholeheartedly thought it was B, but I can understand that because genial also means that, his modest and easygoing personality kept him out of the spotlight and he got less attention as a performer. I feel like those answers are pretty similar. Yeah, I understand like the contention on that one. Why would they even do that? I don't know. I don't care. I'm pretty sure genial means look at that. We're just gonna friendly and cheerful. Yeah. So that kind of sucks. Okay, next one. 12. The author mentions Barry Solo in "Oh Lady Be Good" primarily in order to what? Yeah, I haven't heard of this guy, honestly. Okay, DGD. Um, wait. Jasmine, did you mean to type D? Because it's after J. Oh, okay. We got two G's and a J. So establish that Barry Solo is better than Count Basie's, or provide an example of Barry's musical excellence. I'm gonna go ahead and look at the answer and then explain. So it is G. Okay, that makes sense. Because I think since he isn't well known and the author's kind of expecting you to not know who he is, he's like, oh, well, let me just throw in an example of how good he really is, because someone can say, oh, this guy's super great. You just don't know him because he was a cool guy. And I feel like no one's really going to believe that. Like, if I told you about some random lady that you didn't even know, that no one has ever even heard of, and said she was like the best ever, but because she was such a great person, no one knew about her, that just doesn't seem realistic. So I can understand why he would throw in examples like, no, look at this thing that he did, to try to show off that, hey, no, he actually is great. But yeah, so I'm guessing that's why that's B. Does that make sense? I also don't know like the specific reasoning for all of ACT's answer choices, because ACT's kind of, they just like to do stuff. Like they're just extra. Um, if I could score up with somebody, it'd probably be B. But the author points out that many serious jazz enthusiasts know little about Barry, primarily in order to what? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because the other ones just kind of don't make sense. Like I don't see the narrators criticizing scholarship, um, demonstrating the author's more knowledgeable. No, I didn't really get that. Or illustrate the secrecy he demanded. That wasn't like I don't think that was. So I kind of picked D off the bat too, and yeah, it's D. 14. According to the author, Barry solos as a recording session musician were often very short because what? H. Anyone else? Okay, the answers are rolling in. Okay, I'm just gonna go with those two. Worked with in the recording constraints of the era. Yeah, it's H. That one, I guess you could have made it deeper than it needed to be. Like he preferred this, he preferred that, or he just wasn't good. But I mean, to be honest, the what you could and couldn't record was a lot different back then. So I don't have very much more to say about that one. So I'm gonna move on to the next one. The author indicates that during various times as a musician, swing music was primarily regarded as what? Beauty. A lot of uncertainty jumping off the page right now, but primarily D. So we're going to focus on C and D only. So the answer is D. So good for you guys. But yeah, swing music, from what I've heard, from what I've read, like it was just kind of regarded as, this is fun, it's upbeat, you're gonna dance to it, you're gonna, whatever. So I'm surprised no one picked B actually to be appreciated by young people. But yeah, it like a lot of people, that was the party music at the time. Jazz was really big back then, but mostly for that. And you didn't really study with it. Like I don't think, like it's kind of like if I was listening to Megan Thee Stallion while trying to do math homework, it kind of just doesn't go together. Like I don't know, like swing music seems like what would be like today's like hype music, basically. So that's why that's D. Okay, as used in line 35, so the line question. The word court most nearly means what? I feel like this one was pretty like, you know, straightforward. I also find it weird that one word can mean two drastically different things. Like, why can court mean like romantically pursue and court like lawsuit court? Like, why is that the same word? Like, that doesn't. I need to look up like the etymology of that word because that just doesn't even. Like, I don't really understand the correlation there. We got F and G, which are pretty similar in nature. It is F. Let's scroll up to line 35. Okay, oddly enough, Barry's geniality might help explain his failure to court history's favor. So, which question was it? What is that? Oh, seek to attract. So that's why it's F, because you wouldn't romantically pursue in this case. Like he is kind of using it in the same way. So like if it's the same as if you were saying to try to court a woman, like trying to court a woman's favor, but because it is specifically history and he's trying to like get in the books and be famous and be like well known, it has to be seek to attract but not romantically pursue. That's the slight difference in diction there, is that one is romantically based and oh, that's perfectly fine, Chastity. One is romantically based and one is just plain attraction. Does that make sense to everyone who put G? Okay. Yeah, it's really like an argument of semantics, honestly. Oh, stop opening things. Okay. In the seventh paragraph, lines 57 through 75, the author compares sidemen to traveling salesmen in order to what? C. C. Okay. Yeah, it is C. Basically, they're just doing whatever they could to help out. They're kind of like the supportive role. Nothing really else I could add there. It is like straight in the line. Yeah, so we're gonna move on. The author describes Henderson's blues in C sharp minor as what? Again, this one's kind of like a from the passage kind of thing, but we'll vibe with it. I'm actually kind of debating on taking the ACT again, just because still never was pleased with my score. Okay, J and J. Okay, nothing really else to say from that. Like I said, straight from the passage, just plucked. That's how they described it, was odd, haunting, and relaxing. Might have to give that a listen because that sounds kind of dope. According to the author, what is unique about the June 1940 rendition of the song "A Ghost of a Chance"? It seems like the slideshow said, half of humanities questions are reasoning, which was like I think the first half of these, and then the second half tends to be more like from the passage. So I'm guessing that these questions, like the second half, is more from the passage, which is why they're on the slightly easier side. I didn't expect it to be so split down the middle like that. I thought they'd kind of like toss them in there together. Also, has anyone done this passage before? Like either of those passages before? I probably should have like asked that. I tried to get ones that like was pretty sure no one had used, but I wasn't sure. Okay, so Elise says A. Jasmine says A. Okay, that's good. I was like, what if they've read this? Because I know a lot of times when I was doing ACT prep, they would accidentally use one, like a passage that we've read 80 million times, and I would just vaguely remember the answers. Um, yeah, it's A. It's the only recorded piece that features Barry from beginning to end. That's kind of sad. That's kind of sad. It's the only thing that he's recorded in from beginning to end. The author uses the phrase "a cathedral of a solo" in line 85 to create a sense that Barry's solo was what? Uh, well, I'm doing pretty decently on time because it's like 5:12. I expected to accidentally get done pretty early, and but I always did that during STEM too. Like I feel like I either ran over or was done super early for no reason. Okay, so F, an intricate, awe-inspiring masterpiece. I don't think there's any other way that could have gone, considering it's literally a cathedral. And when I think of cathedral, I think of the huge stained glass, beautiful structures that just like they're beautiful, they're inspiring to a lot of people. So, I mean, I could kind of understand the other one, but not really. Okay, so this next one, there's no other passages after this. This one's kind of weird because it's one half because of where I had to get it from. But again, 9 minutes. You guys are gonna read through, answer the questions. If you're done early, like before the time is up, you can message in the chat and I'll just end the time. But let me pull up the timer. Okay. Your time starts now. They're finishing up this passage. They have like 3 minutes left.
Okay, all good. I was just kind of popping in to see what's going on.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, guys, your time is up. And we're just gonna go over this. Okay. Did anyone not finish the passage or the questions? I also find it kind of funny that we had a passage about how when talking about jazz, someone's like omitted, and then the next passage he wasn't mentioned. I just find and I did not like purposefully have two passages about jazz back to back. It just kind of happened like that. But jazz is kind of cool anyway, so it's okay. So we're just gonna jump into it. Number one, which chord, if any, does the author eventually conclude is the most confusing jazz chord to play? What do we got? A, A. Okay, so it was A. I read through it. I didn't really. He did mention that like all the chords that are in the answer choices. He did mention he was like these are crazy. I don't understand these, but none of them. It was like oh this is super hard. Like this is the hardest. So that one pretty straightforward. Just he doesn't mention anyone specific. As used in line 47, Magician Secrets most nearly means what? Oh, yeah, it's right here. For the most part, Victor's elliptical personality prevented him from ever giving me straightforward information when I asked him to divulge the magician's secrets of jazz. Bye, Heller. Oh, sure, he left. F. Yeah, also pretty straightforward. The other ones, like instances of harmless trickery, no. The true nature of a private person. Basically, none of the other ones could even make sense. To me, anyway. Oh, where did my mouse go? Okay. As portrayed by the author, Victor responds to the author's invented chord with what is best described as what? This one confused me at first when I read it because I was like, wait a second. Because I thought when I read it first that he was talking about the chords he played at the end of the story where he was like doing well and like trying to figure it out and everything. Yeah, it's D. He was like, oh, you just mean this. The other states that the real book was something he explored for a few what? This one's going a lot faster. I think it's just a little bit less dense. G. G. Okay, yeah. Again, pretty straightforward. Nothing really to add there. Just as he was looking at it and then bought it. The details in lines 40 to 44 primarily serve to suggest the He's often bizarre sounding, subtle hints of chaos, start sounding better the older you get. A, the aspects of jazz's complexity that more mature listeners enjoy. Yes, because like it said, sweet candy starts to taste a little bit not as good anymore. You prefer bitter things. Just because, when you're younger, I feel like you're a lot less picky. Everything sounds good. Well, not everything, but you're willing to take in the sweet. You're willing to take that in. But when you're older, you're like, no, I want them to mix it up. I want something different. In the context of the passage, the author's statement in lines 68 to 71 most merely means what? Yeah, most of these are like pretty straightforward and not very dense, which again, I didn't intend, but I think everyone needs that every now and then, especially when you are doing the speed read approach, because it can be a bit much to have to sit there and pick up every single bit of information. But yes, J, his hand was incapable of playing music, that his mind was, I said that backwards, you know what I mean, J. But yeah, he was like, I feel like I can't play this. I feel like I don't even understand it, but his hand was sounding jazzy. So it's J. The author implies that F sharp minor 7 flat 5 is an example of a chord that he what? D. Okay. Yep. Again, straight from the passage, she was like, it took me, I think, 20 seconds to understand what it was saying. The passage supports which of the following conclusions about Victor? This one is also very straightforward. They tried to make it seem like it was something that it wasn't. But yeah, you guys got it. It's H. That's all that ever gets mentioned of him. Like, there's nothing more to it. It would have been cool if he was like later, like, oh yeah, I met up with him and was like, look what I could do, and he was actually impressed. Would have been pretty full circle, but whatever. The passage is best described as being told from the point of view of someone who is what? This one's a bit more inference, a bit more reasoning. Why do you think that? C. Relating his impressions of jazz music and his attempts to play it. And Elise said A. Reviewing the chain of events that led to his career in jazz. It is C. I understand why you picked A though. The only reason I think it's not A is because he didn't have a career in jazz. He never mentioned having one. He never mentioned that he was going to start having one. It was just that he liked it a lot and that he was really into it. So that's why I think it's not A. If he had been like, yeah, I'm starting a career in jazz, like this would be a great new adventure, then it would definitely be A. That makes sense. Okay, and lastly, assessing his early and later experiences with the real book, the author most strongly implies that it was what? So, G. Yeah, that's like the same question we got up above. Initially difficult to decipher, but ultimately manageable. Yeah, he was like, I started with 20 seconds and I can barely read it, and now like my hand sounds jazzy. Okay, that's all I have for today. I'm sorry it wasn't more. I didn't expect to go through that quick. I will say I'll like drop this link. They have a bunch of passages, there's a lot of information. And it kind of sucks because that's where I was gonna get my passages for the next class. But I would definitely give that a look through, because again, the only way you're gonna get better is practice. Does anybody have any questions? I feel like I could have reviewed more, but at the same time, what really is there to review? Again, ask your teachers for book recommendations, because I promise they want to give you some. Like I know they do. They're probably just waiting for a kid to ask if they're a good English teacher. But yeah, that's all I have. So if you guys have anything else, I'm gonna stick around, but if not, you're free to go. My computer's dinging.